Okay, welcome back, coaches. This is part two of, I'm going to call this the Northwest Hall of Famers clinic here with Coach Clem and Coach Hatch from Burlington and Seaholm, and now they're both coaching with the Bellingham Bells. And we talked about pitching and arm care in our first episode. In this second one here, we're going to talk about hitters, defense, and kind of some ideas in terms of kind of creating, developing, and sustaining leadership and culture in programs. So first question is about hitters, and Coach Hatch, I'm going to start with you on this one. What does a day look like for your hitters? What kind of daily drills, focus on mental approach, on-field drills, BP routines? You can kind of take it where you want to go with that, but what's that look like for you guys?
Okay. After we do our warm-up stuff, I usually do the defensive stuff at the front end of practice because everybody wants to hit. Everybody loves to hit. So we do our hardcore defensive stuff at the front end. But what I've learned over the years is how do I incorporate some of my defense in with my hitting? So here's some ideas. I'm like you. That first week, I want to make sure that every kid knows how to do a bat warm-up. So we have a series of things that we do for bat warm-up. We do dry swings. We're big on dry swings. Before games, I'll have the guys go down the line, and we'll do dry swings. I've actually had everybody with the bat in their hand. And by the way, carry your bat more and your glove less. That was something I learned from Ed Sheff. He said, have your guys carry their bat more. Take it in the outfield. Take it in the infield. Make them hang on to their bat more. We don't swing enough up here in the Northwest. We got to teach kids how to use that doggone implement. So we had the guys, do a lot of dry swings. And what I'd do is I'd stand out in front of them, and everybody would spread out so they weren't going to kill each other. And we'd go through, I'd do the pitching piece, whether it was right-handed or left-handed. And then after they did their swings, then we started to break it down into what we called MIOs, middle, inside, outside. And then we had 5 levels. If it was a 1, that was below your knees. And if it was a 5, it was above your shoulders. So if I said M5, you take. I1, you take. If I said M3, then you would take a middle pitch right down the middle and you'd bang that pitch. If it was inside, outside, whatever level it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the kids would react to it. So I'd go through the pitching motion, and as I got to release, they would do all their timing mechanism process, loading and all that stuff. And then they would swing, and first couple, we'd just go to contact. And we'd have everybody check out where they were at contact. Then we'd finish the swing and then progress to the entire swing. And we'd keep doing that. I'd incorporate the pressure game. We'd say, okay, bunting situation, man on first, bunt to first base. Bunting situation, bunt to second, go to third. Squeeze, hit and run. Butcher boy hit and run. We do all that stuff so that I could see as the pitcher out in front of them that they were getting their timing process down. So, that was one thing I think that was really, helpful. Once we did kind of the simulated dry swings, then every day we would go one-on-one pepper. We called it war pepper. And so instead of having 4 or 5 guys in your pepper group, it was the hitter and a thrower. And those guys would go one-on-one playing pepper. And I think of all the drills that we do, I don't know how many guys play pepper anymore, but we did it religiously. And I really think that kids need to know how to handle a bat. They need to know how to throw a strike, in there. So it was all short distance, but it was war pepper one-on-one. Sometimes in the old days, we didn't have the luxury of, just one field. So if there was a freshman game or a JV game going on, I'd take the varsity guys over to the football field, and we'd use wiffle balls, sponge balls, whatever we could get, and we'd have them in groups of 4 or 5, and I'd stand out and watch because I wanted to make sure everybody was doing the pressure game correctly. The kids would do the throwing, they do the fielding, so there's a hitter, a catcher, a pitcher, and two outfielder kind of guys. And we'd go all the way down the football field, and I just call out, all right, here's a bunt. Man on first, they do it. And I'd go for 30 seconds, and they just keep throwing, bunting, working on takes, working on bunts, working on the whole works. Then I'd say, okay, man on second, get him to third. Then I'd say, okay, squeeze. I'd say bunt for base hit. I'd say hit and run. I'd say butcher boy. I'd say whatever. Then after they all did a round of that, and it usually took us, about 10 minutes to get through everybody. Then we go the second round, and we called it pressure game. So now I'd call out, hey, Johnson, man on first, execute the bunt. And so everybody have to watch him execute the bunt. If he did, we'd all clap like crazy. If he didn't, then we all ran up the hill to the tennis court, which is about 100 yards, and back and do it again. And I just kept going through that process of, again, competing, putting some pressure on guys, and making them execute all that stuff. Because how many times do you get to do that in a game? You better do it in a practice, because when you need it, you got to have it done. It's kind of like being up there 15,000 feet in your airplane, and you want that parachute to open up. So we kind of looked at the bunting game and the pressure game as those pieces of the game that really were at critical times of the game, close games against good pitchers. You better know how to handle it. So, by incorporating that piece into our practices, our guys really, I think, had a lot more confidence doing things in games, because they didn't want to let their teammates down, number one, because that run up to the tennis court was no easy deal. Sometimes we'd even have them do some sliding on the way down. So we were using the hill to work on some sliding stuff. You got to be creative with this stuff, guys. So then, once we got through that, then we go to the batting cage and we do our regular hitting into socks, off of tees, live, machines, whatever. But I always incorporated the pressure game into our kind of our thing that we did right after warmups. As far as going into batting practice, here's one thing that I picked up from a friend of mine down in Miami. I said, Noberto, what are you guys doing at the University of Miami that is helping you during BP? He said, Hatcher, what we do is what we call hardcore or hard-nosed batting practice. Okay, tell me about it. He says, well, we got our groups, and we got our defensive guys out there, and they're all doing their thing. But what we do is sometimes we'll have group one is doing pressure game for 5 minutes. They use a shortened base running, so you're not in the way of the first baseman, third baseman, shortstop, second baseman. So from about 60 feet down the line and back behind the mound and over to third, the base runners just work on their breaks at first on the bunt, breaks at second. We do the squeeze, we do the safety squeeze, we do the bunt for the base hit, and they're doing their base running as they're watching the process of actually doing it at the plate. While that's going on for that 5 minutes of pressure game stuff with that group of hitters, then we do hardcore defensive work. So the corner guys might go down the third baseline and work on communication on fly balls into the crowd, into the fence, into the dugout. They might be doing some short hop picks. The catchers are over doing blocks. The center fielders are working on going to the fence, doing zigzags, opening up, with the right-handed, left-handed hitter. So for that 5 minutes, those guys are working on defense while we're working on the bunting base running piece. Then, okay, we're good. Now we start doing our regular BP, whether it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or however you want to do it. The other thing that we did with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, for the 5 and the 4 round, infielders are throwing all balls to first base. On 3, 2, and 1, it's double play round. So now on 3, 2, and 1 round, we're turning double plays. Wherever the ball's sitting in the infield, we're turning double plays. And so we're incorporating a lot of defensive stuff along with our hitting stuff that you can incorporate. I think instead of just everybody standing around waiting for the bunting game to get done, we broke it down so that there's some defensive pieces. So each group that comes through, there's another period for another, defensive stuff that we want to work on. Let's say we're having trouble with double plays. Okay, middle guys, we're working on double plays right now. And so we do that for 5 minutes, isolated. Outfielders not doing a very good job and getting jumps on balls or going to the right or left or throwing, whatever it was. Communication drills, the two outfielders coming together. So they do that for 5 minutes. So for about, the whole period on hitting, whether that's 60 minutes, you got about, 20, 25 minutes in there where your defense is also getting some chances to incorporate some of the things that you need to work on. We found that to be really, really good stuff. So those are just some ideas there on that part. I'll let Jim take it from there.
No, that's great, Coach. I love it. Coach Clem?
I'll throw in just a couple quick ones. I think that during camp week, when they're doing your hitting circuit and you're teaching kids their swing, I think it's really important to have a station where you have either plastic wiffle balls. We tape our wiffle balls up, or you have tennis balls, one or the other, not using regular hard balls at this drill, but you have a hit by pitch station so that they're learning how to stride and then to roll and tuck and protect themselves. That hit by pitch station is I think a really important station, one for liability, that you teach your kids how to get out of the way of a pitch, but two, that they can get over fear of the baseball. And tucking their elbows on that, just teaching them how to do it, and then their partner just peppers them, okay? And I know that some guys think, I'll tell you, I started doing that with both of my sons when they were like kindergarten age. And they could learn to get out of the way of a pitch, and then their confidence just grew from there. You know, they weren't afraid of the baseball, got over the fear of the baseball so much earlier. And, you know, they were kind of a test tube experience for me, because I hadn't done that with anybody else's kids. But holy cow, I'm telling you what, confidence just so much quicker, comes so much sooner. And I think with your kids that are in high school, some of them are still afraid of the baseball. And so get over that fear of knowing, okay, I'm going to take it in the back, I'm going to be okay. And they might even be able to get out of the way, but we want them to turn right first. The next thing I want to make sure that we do in our hitting drill, and I'll take that one step further. You know, it like with my kids always led. You know, Zach led it has the Husky record for most hit by pitches in a career, but at that one season he also had the Pac-12 record, Pac-10 then. It's something that's just in your system. You don't try to get out of the way, you just protect yourself. It really is a good thing to know how to do. The other drill, I think it's just really important that you always have a hit to the off-field drill. Always start, you know, there should always be a bucket of balls when that station is always taking pitches the other way. Whether it's hit and run, they have to learn to take any pitch that's thrown at them, you know, whether it's inside, middle, or out, and get it over the right side. But it helps them then when they have to actually take a pitch that's away from them to wait long enough to get it over there and take a proper swing. So I'll just stop with that because I don't want this to get long. But I think it's important to have a hit by pitch station and then an oppo station, taking a bucket of balls to right field before you start hitting them up the middle and then pulling. If they can hit the ball the other way, they're going to be a successful hitter at any level. That's a big thing. I know there's so many philosophies on hitting. You know, if you crowd the plate, you don't have to worry about taking it the other way. I'm not big on that. I think that you should learn how to hit the ball to all fields. And I think that's a fundamental thing for high school kids especially. That way, once they get big and strong and powerful and they want to crowd the plate and try to just pull everything, that's a career move for them that they can make once they get out of our program.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially with, you know, pitching coaches and high school pitchers. As soon as they, you know, get 2 strikes or get down in the count, they want to go away. And if you can't hit the ball away, you're going to struggle, and you're going to roll balls over to their best infielders over and over again.
No doubt. Yep.
I think that's huge. That's great. Coach Hatch, I love what you talk about with incorporating defense. One of the things I stole from my dad that we do is just a hit and run drill we call quarters, and we put all of our base runners out. So there's 4 guys, a hitter, and 3 guys at the bases, and we put our infield out. And it's just one pitch, hit and run. Everybody's defending the runner at first base on the defensive side, and we just get a ton of live ground balls because our infielders are just trying, or our hitters are just trying to get the ball down on the infield. And it's fast paced. We put a bucket behind the first baseman. So when we turn it, it goes right back to it. If they hit the ball hard right back into the screen, I have a ball in my pocket, and I just turn around, throw a ground ball to the middle, and it clicks and it goes fast. And you've got guys working on running hard through first base. You've got guys working on, at second base, I'm reading the ground ball behind me, in front of me. At third base, we'll say infield's in or infield's back, and they're getting their reads on that. If they mess up 3 times in a row and don't get the ball down or make an error or whatever, then everybody runs. So we put a little something on it. So I love trying to incorporate defense and making things a little bit pressure packed when guys have to hit, because you never hit without pressure on you. And we do it in the cages.
Stuff,
we always do it in the cages with no pressure on it.
Yeah,
right.
No, you're so right.
You know what else we did? When we do a scrimmage, we started with the bases loaded every inning. And I tell you, we don't do enough base running, guys. And I tell you, if you put base runners out there every inning, number one, it puts pressure on the pitcher. Number two, it puts pressure on the defense. And number three, your base runners are getting a chance to do some base running that you don't. If you just wait for somebody to get on, but I want to, let's put those much pressure on practice as we can. And then let's see how you deal with it, because it's going to show up. So yeah, base running is also something that we really wanted to make sure we did every day, some piece of base running.
Yeah, that's part of camp week right from the beginning, teaching them how to do it too, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, I love it. That's another thing I do every day. As soon as we get done with our throwing and stuff, we go right into base running, whatever that might be. But one of the things we do a lot is we'll put 3 or 4 pitchers out on the mound, and we call it jumps. And so we'll go 3 deep at first base, and all 3 of those runners are stealing off of the pitcher. The pitcher's got a ball in his hand. We have a first baseman, a guy at second base, and a catcher. And so all those guys are working, and our base runners are getting steal jumps. Well, and then we'll have our guys that steal third, stop at second, and go steal third. Then we'll mix in our delay steals, and it forces the pitchers to work on their timing and their slide step and mixing all that kind of stuff in. I'll stand over with the base runners and talk about jumps and what we're looking for off those pitchers. One coach will kind of be with the catchers, kind of hitting them in the face and swinging the bat in front of them to kind of distract them a little bit, like a hitter standing there. And then one coach will be out with the pitchers, kind of talking to them about what they're doing. And so I like doing that too, because it gets them going right off the bat and thinking about stealing bases and putting pressure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Good stuff.
Hey, Clem, while you're on that subject, with the pitchers, on that camp week, part of the work is, holding runners. So they'll learn how to pick the first, how to pick the second, pick the third, how to pitch out. That's also stuff you can do indoors, and it's part of the pitcher workout during camp week. Every pitcher's got to have an inside move too. I mean, that's a must.
Oh, absolutely. No, I think there's another lost art, right? In terms of coaching, you watch these guys throw in the big leagues, and they've all got these great big high leg kicks because they throw it as hard as they can. Our guys, they need to be able to hold runners and keep guys from getting in scoring position. It happens too quick at our level.
Yeah, no doubt.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's switch it over to defense here. Coach Clem, I'm going to start with you. What does team and individual defense look like for you?
Well, the individual. So I'll start with the individual. The individual, again, is camp week. And so they learn the fundamentals of every position. Our corner guys work together. Our middle guys work together. Catchers have their own workout, but then we'll incorporate them with the corner guys so that they get some throws in, and then to the middle guys so they'll get some throws in there too. And then the outfielders, of course, have their own workout with another coach hitting them fly balls, and that's basically how we do it. We incorporate from that. There's a progression of drills that we do with every position, and it's 4 square, learning how to throw, getting your feet right, getting your hands in the right spots, all that stuff. Catch, throw, get out. We do that. We learn how to, the corner guys, I don't know how much you want to go into this, but one thing I'll tell you that may be different than what a lot of guys hear. I still believe corner guys need to square up to balls down the line. It just kills me to see guys try to backhand that ball, and then it goes past them for a double down the line. And if it's the right field line, it's probably a triple. And so, we work hard on getting squared to baseballs, get them knocked down if that's the best you can do. I'd rather have that than take a chance the ball go down the line. We'll give up one base to save 2 or 3, even if it doesn't mean that we're going to get an out. But if the ball's hit that hard and you knock it down, there's a good chance you're going to get the out anyway. So that's one thing I want to make sure I emphasize. Middle guys, with them, I want to make sure that they're always, they're holding runners, but we don't need them both to do that. Okay, depending on who's up and whatnot, one guy's going to run the picks and give the signs to the pitcher as to what our sequence is for holding. We work on that, but I think just to kind of make it concise, we have a set of drills, and then we go into putting all the players out there together with 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 coaches hitting the situation that we want to practice. Pop-ups to one side, fly balls that are in the gaps, relays that we practice relays. And then we have the pitchers run out and back up the bases depending on which side of the field we're actually working on. All the PFPs are done during that time. We do pitchers will come out. We'll have 3 lines for pitchers. So they're picking the first, they're picking the second, they're picking the third. That's all part of the sequence. We have, Kev, I could give anybody this, but we have a checklist by position. It's probably 10 to 20 things that we practice, and we rotate those 20 things through practices so we don't forget to do them. And that way we are fundamentally getting those situations covered every week. We don't cover every situation every day, but we want to make sure we cover every situation at least weekly. And so those position, those 20 things that we want to make sure we get covered at every position, it does kind of make practices different each week, every day too then, because we pick out 5, okay, we're going to do these 5 today, we're going to do these 5 the next day. And so we get through all 20 of them every week. I think it's really important that you hit situations and you design the situations. And so your extra players are running bases, and you practice what it is that you think, that you need to practice. Having guys run around the bases and hitting, balls that they have to make plays on, I think gives your kids a lot of confidence that they know that, what to do with the baseball. And also when it comes up in a game, they know that, they know where to go and what to do. And nothing that you haven't done in practice that they're prepared for in a game.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I got. It would take, for me anyway, demonstrating some of those drills. I'd love to do it, but I don't think this forum is probably the place where I could do that, right?
Yeah, no, we're working on putting together some Zoom clinics in the fall with the WSBCA. So we're going to have you back on for sure to demonstrate some of that stuff for us. But I think that's great. Like the situational stuff, with having a base runner, I think is so important, because I think a lot of times guys will go out and do, 21 outs or something like that. And there's no base runners, and it changes the whole game when you do that.
Yeah.
And so I like to do pressure balls.
You're right. I totally agree. We do 21 outs, but we'll hit situations more often than doing 21 outs.
Yeah.
We do 21 outs to mix it up. More than
we started doing kind of a 21 out. I just call it pressure balls, but we'll take our varsity guys and have our JV guys run and time it and say, okay, in 10 minutes, how many perfect plays can we make? And then we'll flip-flop it, and the JV goes, and now the varsity runs, and it's all right. They get 10 minutes. How many can you get? And the winners, don't have to clean the field or whatever. And
yeah, right.
So I love doing stuff like that.
Yeah, that's great stuff. The 3 lines for pitchers, one on the first base side, one on behind the mound, one on the third base side, right? I'm guessing a lot of guys do that, but if you don't do it, it's a great thing to do, because they'll get more reps that way than having one line of guys. One base at a time. Yeah,
definitely. Coach Hatch, how about you? Defense.
Well, I totally agree with everything you guys are doing right there. That's really good stuff. You know, I remember going to a clinic over in Pullman, and Bo would have his players demonstrating that dirty old, you know, club field house over there. But there'd be 200 coaches sitting in there watching this stuff, and he had it down to a gnat's rear end as far as everybody's involved with something. And to this day, I still use that checklist. Like Jim was saying, you know, I go through that checklist every year, and the seniors go, Coach, we got to do that again? Yeah, just like you take your gun apart and put it together again, the seniors are going to do it. But the beauty of that is we let the freshmen and JVs, those first 2 weeks especially, jump in on that, and they watch the older guys, and then they, you know, they get their, you know, it's not Little League anymore. It's not Babe Ruth anymore. This is high school baseball. And again, here's your pressure. Can you keep up with this? And you know what? Sometimes you find a gem, those freshman guys that, okay, here's a guy that's going to be a senior one of these days, and he's going to be our guy. And we want to identify who those kids are that can handle, you know, dealing with the negative and the failure and just keep going. And I want to know who those guys are right away. So the thing that we did is I listened to Bobo. I listened to a guy by the name of Bob Milano, who was at the University of California, Berkeley. I listened to Jerry Kindle and Ron Polk, and they all had this system. So what I did is I took it and I put this thing together. It's called the 15 Steps of Defense. And let me just give you an example of one. So let's say my coaches have got this chart, or I've got my seniors carrying it with them, okay, in their back pocket or wherever. And if I don't have coaches for the specific position, then the senior guys would take charge of their group, third base, first base, whatever it was. Most of the time we had coaches that are there watching it though. So let's say we're going to do, okay, guys, we're doing number one because we saw some problems in this area. Pitchers throw a wild pitch, cover home plate. Catchers chase a wild pitch and throw to home. Now, we don't want to practice throwing wild pitches, so I have a coach stand behind the catcher. The pitcher simulates the throw. We throw the ball behind the catcher. He goes and gets it. The pitcher comes and covers. Shortstop's to first base. Third baseman to second base, double play with the shortened first baseman. You know what that means? So you got the regular first baseman over there, first base. A shortened first baseman is a guy with a screen, you know, so the guys at first base are protected. But another first baseman about 2/3 of the way, taking throws from those second basemen on the double play. Throw to the shortened first baseman. Outfield guys working on communication drill. So that was number one. Then we go down, okay, number 6. And we just 15 of them. And what I learned is that there's a way to cover everything in those 15 steps that you usually see. There's always going to be something in this crazy game that shows up that you've never seen before. But most of the time, if we have a pretty good feel for these 15 things, then I feel pretty good about going into postseason. And I made sure that we had a pretty good handle on all 15 of those pieces. If we had a good handle on those 15 pieces, we usually played pretty solid defense.
No, I love that. I've got 15, it's called the Shorewood 15 Steps to Success. And so my guess is Wyatt probably saw your 15 steps and made it his at some point too. And now I'm doing the same thing.
From me, that bugger.
Yeah. While we're on the topic, any coaches out there, the Ron Polk playbook, Ron Polk baseball playbook, that is gold. I mean, that has everything in it, from how you clip the grass to how you put your shoes on, to how you hold. It's incredible. I've used that a ton over the years.
It's unbelievable. It really is.
And it's got the checklist, like you said, Coach Clem, where you know exactly what you need to be practicing. And yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, all right. Last question here, and sorry, my 5-year-old, my 4-month-old might be in the background here making some noise. I'll try to mute myself as soon as I'm done here, but this one gets more to just sort of how you develop culture in your program. So, Coach Clem, we'll start with you, but kind of maybe what's 1 or 2 things that you do or that you've done over the years in your program to kind of create, develop, and sustain your leadership, your expectations, your culture? Go ahead.
Well, I think I'll start with, your expectations are, you got to make sure they're very clear and that they're consistent. And for us, it's, the expectations as a student, as an athlete, as a community member, those are 3 areas that we talk a lot about. And so, and then it's about holding them accountable to those expectations. If you want change to happen, you got to have accountability as well. And so, because everybody wants to have their program be represented in a way that they can all be proud of, not only you as a coach, but for your school to be represented in the way that they want to have the light shed on them as well. So, you know, those things have to be, I think, very clear, the expectations, and they understand why they're important too. To give an expectation without understanding why it's important probably isn't as meaningful, and you won't get as much buy-in if they don't understand why it's important. You might assume that they should know why, but they don't always get it. And the traditions that you have in the program, or that you want to build to have in your program, they're passed down from year to year, from one class to the next. And it comes basically, how do we treat each other? You know, we want, I'll meet with our seniors all by themselves to just talk about a lot of different things for seniors, you know, helping them in their path, careers, and we'll talk to the juniors the same way so we can help them in their path and careers. But I think the culture thing comes with them putting their arms around all those guys, those underclassmen, feeling that, wow, I'm you know, they know my name. We do all the drills together as groups, so it's 9 through 12. The drills they're being taught the same. We have them practice during camp week, especially with each other, so they learn each other's names. They spend some time together. The bonding that takes place in camp week, we think, sets a tone for the whole season. You know, I said we do our 40-minute sessions of offense, defense, and pitching, but that leaves, you know, that takes you to 2 hours, and the other half hour is a 15-minute warm up. And sometimes we take that to 20, but it also leaves a 15-minute time for meeting. And so we plan to meet usually a little bit before practice to set a tone for the practice, and then we save some time at the end to do some bonding activity and some have a call on some of them to talk at times with covering topics that we'd like to make sure get covered, but making sure everybody feels welcome and wanted, and that we talk a lot about, you know, being different from each other. We're all different from each other, and whether that's all the differences that actually are kind of being in the news right now, right? The Black Lives Matter movement is something I think that kind of stirs this up a little bit, as how important it really is. Acceptance for who a person is, and being a teammate, what that means to be a teammate. The teammate thing is just a huge thing. To be a good teammate, and we talked about what that means and what that demonstrates, but we ask them first what they think, you know, is a good teammate, and to describe that on paper first with the classroom thing. You can do it in a gym if that's your classroom, but we want them to write down, you know, what they think are important, their core values, so to speak, what they see them, and we'll direct that with specific questions that we want them to answer. But then we allow them opportunities to talk about it. I think that in the end, acceptance is a big deal, and them knowing us. I think as a coach, you got to speak from the heart when you speak to your athletes. You got to look at them in the eye. I think that during warm-ups, you got to walk around warm-ups. If you're coach, I don't typically lead warm-ups, although I have, but I like to be walking around to say hello to every athlete. I think it's important that they know that they're there every day, and that you said something to them each day. I think when you've got 9 through 12 and where we are, you know, 3 teams, that's 45 kids. and you're trying to, you know, make sure that each kid knows that he's important to you. That's how culture, I think, gets started. And then, you know, we talk about, I'll go into this, since this is the last question, I guess. I've got 4 things that I like to talk about with the athletes too. Every day in those talks, I'll come out with a theme for the day. But it's typically, what do you bring to the team every day? You know, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Those 4 things. So physically, what are you doing to get yourself to be a better person, the best you can be for our team? Mentally, how do you train yourself to be the mentally tough person that we need you to be? And then emotionally, how do you keep your emotions working for you and not against you? And how do you, bring your team up and not ever taking them down? And then spiritually, what I do with the spiritual piece is I talk to every person, as a group, not in a religious way, but in a way, what kind of, impact do you have on your teammates? What kind of spirit are you bringing to the team? And I always loved, John Madden's quote about attitude as a decision. And when it comes down to individual effort, it takes absolutely 0 talent to play hard every day. And so that's an attitude and effort thing that we kind of focus on. Skills development, talent, it's different with every person, but here's what you can bring to the team every day, and the good teammate thing. And if you want to have mentally tough guys, it can be taught, but you got to spend time talking about it. What does that mean? To say you're born with toughness, I believe that's true to a point, but toughness can be learned, and I think that it comes through understanding how to do that. And so I'll close with this, and if you want me to talk about something else or further, let me know. But I think it's important to teach them how to breathe, how to breathe in and how to breathe out, and how to relax yourself, and then the positivity. What messages are you sending yourself? That I always compare the kid who appears to be confident to someone who isn't appearing to be confident. Is that really what they're feeling, or is it how they've trained themselves to be? And I really think that confidence is something that can be learned as well, but you have to help them do it. Self-talk is a big deal, and you're either giving yourself the right messages, or you're giving yourself the wrong messages. There's really no in between. How you're feeling about yourself at that moment in time when you've got to make a pitch or make a play or swing a bat, the messages that you're telling yourself, the confidence that you need to be successful, it can be learned, but it comes from having a routine that allows you to kind of clear the mechanism, so to speak, right? And to stay focused and in the moment. And those are all things we talk about, and it's a theme for the day, and each one of those things gets talked about throughout the course of the season. And it's, I think culture is a big deal. Tradition does help once you get a few years in at a place, and kids know only your way and parents know only your way, it gets easier. Those first 3-4 years can be a challenge in building culture, but you just got to be true to yourself and know that you're doing the right things, and eventually the right things always win out in the end. You just got to do the right thing. So
yeah, I think that's great, Coach. I especially like what you say about your teammates and kind of likening it to some of the things that are going on in the news right now and everything. And I talk with my wife a lot about, how we're going to explain some of these things to our kids and how we're going to teach them to be respectful and kind and open-hearted to everybody. And one thing I always come back to is we need to get them into team sports as soon as we can, because it does not matter your background, who you are, where you're from. You're all there because you love that sport, and you're all there being the best teammate that you can. And I think just like how do we teach toughness? You know, we put them into an environment that demands that they be tough, and eventually they become tough. And
Yeah.
I think it goes the same way when you talk about respect and kindness and treating other people the way you want to be treated. And I think sports is one of the best places to be for that. And I could tell you, Coach Clem, it speaks a lot to the culture you developed at Burlington, because I have met more high school baseball coaches that played for you at Burlington than anywhere else in the state of Washington. I think that says a lot about you and the program that you created, and that's pretty cool stuff.
Oh, thank you.
Coach Hatch, how about you?
I'm the lucky one there, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
We're all blessed by the guys that we were fortunate enough to come into our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Coach Hatch, how about you?
You guys have circled so many pieces that are just so important, and I agree with every bit of it. I think one thing I always wanted my guys to see, and I'm going to bounce around here because I've written a whole bunch of stuff down here that I've thought about as you've been talking. But the thing that we would reiterate at our orientation meeting with our parents and the players, and we'd have the kids come up and introduce themselves. I'd have the captains talk to the group about what their goals were and what the team goals were. The first week of practice, if it was a bad day and we were going to be inside and we had to wait for the slow pitch or the fast pitch girls to get out of the gym or whoever it was, we'd have a team meeting in the coaches area. We had a little team room, and that was my opportunity on that day to get everybody together. And I'd have the seniors in one group and the juniors and the sophomores and the freshmen. And I'd say, okay, fellas, we're going to make up our Seaholm Gold standards for the season. And so each group would write down 10 things that they wanted to incorporate that would identify us, as a baseball team for that year. And every year, you get a few of the same things, but every once in a while you get some new stuff that'd come in. But then we'd have the four groups come together, and we'd have one kid read what they had from their group. Then once all those are on the table, then the group would decide, these are the 10 things that we're going to live by this year. For the next 4 months, this is us. And so when we identify with the Seaholm baseball team, this is what we look like. And so that ownership, letting them do it, not coming from me. I got a bunch of stuff, and I got a syllabus like Jim does. It's this thick of stuff that we want to incorporate. But I think it's more powerful when you put that Seaholm Gold standard, the team decided on these things at the front of that, then we're going to be a lot better off. So that's what we did. We'd have that first day. I'm also a big guy on mindset. So before we did anything, we'd always have a group meeting before practice, whether it was inside or outside. I would show movies. I would show little clips. Like, you ever seen Patton? When those guys are stacked up on the bridge and those horses or donkeys are in the way, and George is trying to get through the tanks and everything, and he gets to the bench. What's holding us up? And the next thing you know, those horses are going over the side of the bridge, baby. And they said, hey, you're either with us or against us, and we got to move, so make a decision. I also show them the fugitive. When Harrison Ford is standing on that waterway that's into the river, and Tommy Lee Jones is behind him, and he's a cop, and he's going, hey, Harrison, what are you going to do now? And he jumps, and he goes, and you see that body. I know it's Hollywood, but the idea is either you're with us or against us, and either you got to make a decision and do it, or you're not with us. So I show them that kind of stuff. I'll tell you another thing. When Skip Bertman was at LSU, I always wanted to know what he was doing. And he came to Seattle for one of Harriman's clinics. And he talked about some stuff that was just awesome on the mindset. And he says, by the way, I put together a little deal that I use at LSU. And it was a video. It's called Winning the Big One. If you don't have that in your library, you're nuts. And there's pieces of that thing that you could show to your kids literally every day. That would be something that's the stuff that we're talking about. All lives matter. And you know what? That's the beauty of sport. That's the beauty of our game, is you really have to be together to win this, to be able to win. And I just think there's so many things that we can teach in the game that we got to do. And last thing, I know we're running short on time. When I would have my orientation meeting with the families, I got this from a coach down in Vancouver, and I thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard. I said, listen, there's 4 things you can do in our program. Number 1, You can be a player. Okay? You can be a player. Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, you can be a player. You can be a coach. Now, here's the deal. If you're going to be a player, you got to be there every day. If you're going to be a coach, you got to be there every day. Because I got some parents that want to coach, but they can't be there every day. So they don't know what's going on in the interim of all the stuff that they're hearing at the dinner table and what we've been working on and trying to get that kid squared up to handle. So they don't know all the stuff that we're really working on for him to be a better man. So I said, if you want to coach, you come and see me and we'll talk about it. But you got to remember, you got to be there every day. Third thing, you can be a parent. Okay. And most of you are pretty good parents, but here's the deal on being a parent in our program. And so we kind of talk about how we support one another and what we do at the field, game day, practices, how that's going to incorporate. I don't mind you come and watch a practice, but just sit and watch. You're a parent, you're going to support your kid 100%. Fourth guy you could be a fan. You could be a see-home person, but if you're going to be a fan and yell and scream at the other players, the other coaches, the umpires, you're not going to carry yourself in green and gold. I don't want you sitting on our side. You go ahead and be a fan down the left field line, and I don't want anything to do with you. And then think about your kid is on the field and you're being that guy. We don't want you in our program, but you got your choice. You got your choice of those four things. Players are players, coaches are coaches, parents are parents. And if you want to be a fan, okay, but go way over there. We don't want to be around you. So, you know, since I've kind of put that out there at the front end, I very rarely had problems with parents coming and say, hey, my kid needs more playing time. What about this? What about that? They knew where I stood from day one. And I'm telling you, you got to be up front with them. Like Jim said, you got to be up front with people and tell them eyeball to eyeball, this is how we're going to run this. If you don't want to do this, don't be here. Go do something else. Get on your skateboard. But here's the other thing. We got to grow this game, guys. We're getting our butts kicked. We got to grow this game. We got to get more involved with the community. The Bells are a great example. They do a lot of stuff with the community. They run camps in the summer. If you're not running some kind of a thing that's going to build Pullman High School or Seaholm High School during the summer or sometime in the spring when the baseball kid wants to be involved with baseball, we're missing an opportunity to sell our game. Speaking of selling the game, on game days, try this. On game days, I'd find out who the kid was that was doing the announcements for homeroom. They'd always do the announcements, what's for lunch, who's playing games today and all that kind of stuff. And I'd slip them I had these A&W root beer tickets. You know, if you got a root beer ticket, you go down and get a free root beer. And I'd slip them a couple root beers and I go, hey, pal, I got the cassette. I got the tape. Would you take me out to the ball game over the intercom? You don't have to tell them who did it. Just play it and let everybody in school know that there was a game. The other thing that we did is we tried to get to play as many games in the evening at 6, because we had Joe Martin, so we had lights. So we could do that. And it was always better because now you got people coming to the ballpark, the parents and the fans that wanted to be out and watch a ball game at night. So if you got a Burlington Seaholm game at night, you had something special going on there, but I'll tell you, it was fun.
Pack them in.
We got to build the game, guys, and we got the opportunity while we're here, but we got to take it on and do it 100%. So there you go.
Couldn't agree more, Coach. I love it. I forgot to make my background here for you guys.
Cool.
Bells. But I just want to thank both you guys. That was just awesome stuff. My 5-year-old is running the show here now, so I'm going to have to sign off. But that was great, guys. I mean, there was so much to take away from a lot of the stuff that you all talked about. So hopefully we can do something like this again. I really appreciate you guys coming on, taking the time. This was just great.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks, man. Appreciate your
fun for us too.
I've listened to your other ones, and you're doing an awesome job. All the coaches out there are doing really good, man. We need to do this.
Yeah, no, I love listening to the coaches and interacting with them. It's such a fun part of the profession. Absolutely.
It's fun for us to listen to the other guys, Kev. So the association, way to go to whoever and everybody who's participated. It's a great thing. And why not learn from each other, right? I mean, there's a lot of great coaches in the state, and it builds camaraderie. I just think it's really wonderful.
Awesome. Well, I
Great
appreciate
job.
both you guys
I
being
played-
on.
Yep.
Great job.
Been good
Thank
to see you, bud.
Pleasure.
Say hello to your dad for us.
Yeah, you want to
I will.
Me too. And tell him I can't wait for that, for you and him to get the pod going so we can have an Agnew special here.
Yeah, someone's gonna have to convince him.
Well, I'll work on it then. Oh
All
my
right.
gosh, it'd be awesome.
Yeah, one day we'll do that.
Okay. Thanks.